Hey there. Do you ever feel stuck? Stuck in life, like you're stuck in the same old Groundhog Day over and over again pattern. You know that there is something special for you to do. You know that you have unique superpowers. And yet you just get stuck in this pattern of why does this always keep happening to me? If that resonates at all with you, we've got your back because we are going to be talking today about exactly why that keeps happening to you. And we're going to turn that around. So you'll be saying, OMG, it's so cool that this keeps happening to me. And isn't it cool that I created it? So we're talking today about how you can really not only own your superpower, but actively and intentionally step into your superpower. And I'm just going to stop right there and say, you do have a superpower. I know you do. You know you do, if you're really honest with yourself. And my lovely guest here, Maytte, knows that you do as well. We're here to talk about how you can use your superpower so that you step into 2023 from a place of power, and that next year is the best year that you have had yet. How does that sound to you? We're talking about the practicalities of how you can leverage the mechanism of manifestation as a really practical thing in your life. So first up, for those of you who are here live, we are so happy to have you join us. Would love to hear in the chat where you're joining from. And oh, hey there, Larry, Lara, fantastic to have you here. Good to see you. All right, so let us know where you're joining from, and give us a thumbs up if you're if you want to give us a thumbs up, share some love, that'd be fantastic. And in particular, if you know anyone in your world who you feel would really benefit from what we're sharing today, do make sure you sprinkle some of that love around the internet as well, because quite frankly, the last 3 years, wouldn't it be nice to actually turn that current around and make 2023 fantastic? So, right, before we get started, I'm just about to introduce the wonderful Maytte, and we're going to dive into how you can actually leverage manifestation and the law of attraction in your life to deliver what you want. It's a possibility, though, that we haven't met yet, so I'll quickly introduce myself. I'm Anna McKinley, and I have been helping women entrepreneurs to create the business and life they want for the past decade, and I actively use the law of attraction in my life and my business all the time. I mean, we're using it all the time anyway, but we want to use it intentionally so we actually get the things we want, not the other stuff, right? So, Maytte, so great to have you here. I've been looking forward to this conversation for weeks. And first, I just want to say, everyone, Maytte is specifically a law of attraction coach. So this is your bread and butter, right, Maytte? But
Yeah.
you probably didn't always know about the law of attraction. How did you actually come to learn about it?
Well, I grew up in a very spiritual family, so we knew about reincarnation and spirits, and I read a lot growing up, just trying to expand that spiritual side of me. And the first recollection that I had was reading the book The Secret. And I remember just being this incredibly powerful parking lot manifester. To this day, wherever I go, I always have the best parking spaces, and people comment. But it wasn't until about 10 years ago that a girlfriend of mine reintroduced me to Abraham Hicks in particular, and that just changed my life. I was in corporate, and I'd have to take you back because there was a period of time where I became a widow. My son was 5 months old, and I had to um, play the role, do everything that I was supposed to do, have the job, I had got my education, just do all the things that I was supposed to do. And I found myself like 15 years in, having provided a great life for my son, but just really unhappy, feeling stuck, feeling unfulfilled. And when my girlfriend introduced me to law of attraction, everything shifted because what I remembered and realized really deeply was that this was my life and I was 100% responsible for everything that was happening in my life. So if I was feeling stuck and undervalued and unfulfilled and not happy, then I had somehow created that, and I could also recreate something different.
Yeah,
And that was
that's
so
powerful, right? And
powerful.
what I'm hearing is, and I'd just love to know who else watching this resonates with, because kind of like being sucked into the matrix, right? I
Mm,
have to be responsible and I have to do the right thing,
yeah.
um, even if it makes me unhappy, and getting pulled into that. And of course, when we live in a vibrational universe and we know the law of attraction is that we the energy we bring into our life is the energy that's aligned with what we're feeling. I mean, that just creates more misery, doesn't it? So you discovered Abraham Hicks and that boom, oh my goodness, I'm creating this. But we'd love to know, I mean, how did you actually then shift from there?
Oh my goodness. Well, my thoughts were, I'm stuck. I'm too old. I'm never going to get a different job. Like I don't have the skills. Like I felt like what I did was a very niche job.
Hmm.
And what I realized was that I didn't have to figure it all out, but I had to shift my energy. And my energy was around my thoughts. So what I
Hmm.
started doing was, you know what? I don't have the answers, but I always know that everything's working out for me. Even though in this moment it doesn't feel that way, I do know that's true. That's one of my core beliefs. And so I just started thinking, I don't know how it's going to work out, but I know it's going to work out well. And I'm just really excited about the possibilities. And I really tried to find the things in what I was doing that I could focus on that brought me joy. And when I started just switching that over, those little thoughts that were different, all of a sudden, like all these opportunities showed up. And what's interesting is that the opportunities that showed up, really again depends on your perception. My job got eliminated, and they offered me a position that I could not take because it was a traveling position. My son was 16 at the time, and I wasn't going to do it. But I thought, well, this is a perfect opportunity for me to do network marketing, which I had been doing on the side. Um, and I thought, okay, I could do that. I could do that full time. I'm a very smart person. I can make this happen. And so I made that leap, which again, for a lot of people were like, what are you doing? What do you mean you're not going to get a real job? And for a year and a half, I followed that dream, and it was the most incredible experience because I get to be home with my kid. As a single parent, I did travel off and on, and I was never home, and I didn't have that time. So I got to spend that time with my son, which was priceless.
It's
It also,
magical, isn't it?
oh
Mm.
my goodness. I mean, it just could not have been more perfect. That led me to get coaching myself because I wasn't being successful with network marketing. And I thought, what's wrong with me? Like, why is this not working? I'm doing all the things I'm supposed to be doing. And little did I know that that was not my journey. Like, that was my journey to get, those were those steps that we talk about.
Yeah.
And it led me to get to coaching. And I got very specific coaching. It was very law of attraction based because that's what resonated with me at the time, which led me to become certified as a law of attraction coach. But
Cool.
my life took a few more twists and turns before I actually practiced, like actually said, this is what I need to do. But
Yeah.
those twists and turns, I took this amazing job in New York. I got the experience of moving and just being on this incredible adventure, which didn't work, meaning I got let go 7 months later. But it led me to be here in Tampa, where I live by the beach, and I'd always wanted to live in Tampa. And I just got here a little sooner. And it's just been magical since.
Yeah, magical sense. And it's so interesting. There are some really important points in what you just shared that I'd love to just draw out a little bit and see if you want to expand on them. So one of the first ones is, you said all these opportunities happened. But actually, on the face of it, they didn't look like opportunities, right? They looked like I'm losing my job and I've got a 15-year-old son to support, or um, I moved across the country for this role and they let me go. What's that about, right? And a couple of key things in that is you shared about that awareness you gained that actually I'm creating this. So instead of looking at that external stuff, what's happening inside that's bringing this about, and taking ownership of that, which, I mean, when we take responsibility, we have the ability to choose how we respond, right? And you talked
Right.
about perspective as well. That was very powerful, I think, because anything that happens, there's a million different perspectives we could choose, right? So
Exactly.
those were just a few little nuggets. And by the way, everyone watching, whether you're watching live or on the replay, if you get any nuggets, drop them as well, and let us know, because that way we all learn more, right, from this conversation.
Yeah.
But Maytte, do you want to expand on any of those little gems?
Well, what the thread through all of those
Mm,
gems is the fact that life is life. Our human experience has these ups and downs and these challenges. And our job is to remember that we're spiritual beings having this journey. And so when we can tap into that sense of, I get to decide how I want to look at things, what I want to think about, how I want to feel, that is so powerful. So I keep getting these situations that for somebody else might be devastating and could take them in a whole different path. But for me, it gave me an opportunity to think differently, to see the possibility, to focus my attention on what I wanted to create versus what that reality was in that moment. Because that reality, it's what you've already manifested. So if
right.
you focus your attention there, you're just gonna get some more of that.
Well, that's
So
the repeat pattern, right? That's where people go, "Oh my goodness, this just keeps happening to me, the same thing over and over again." It's because we're focused. You're making me think of Albert Einstein. Your hair is much more attractive, much more attractive on all dimensions. But Albert Einstein had that, um, what was that saying, that reality is just an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. And you're speaking to that, really, right? Our reality is a reflection of everything that we've thought and felt up to this point,
exactly.
but it's not necessarily a reflection of the future unless
No,
we keep focusing on it. But look, I've
right.
just got to say, Maite, for most of us, that is one of the biggest challenges, is because physical reality and what we've got in front of us right now, it's an attention grabber, right? So, and you've been through some really up and down kind of things in your life. What has that taught you about how we can detach from what's right in front of us so that we can actually intentionally manifest what we want? Because that is a challenge for a lot of people.
Yes. Well, for me, the first part was what I just said, which is understanding that if I am creating my reality, the reality that I'm in right now has already been created. So I have two ways of looking at it. I can look at the reality. And if I want to look at the reality, then the best way to look at that reality is, what are the positives? Like, what are the
Mm,
things that are good about that reality? Because we always want to be shifting our energy toward higher vibration. I mean, kind of at the end, that's what it's all about, because we're made of energy, we're made of love and appreciation and gratitude and
mm,
all of those wonderful feelings, because that's that highest level that you, from a spiritual or human perspective, we can wrap our head around. um, but when you're able to kind of look at what those situations are and learn from them, like when I got let go of that job in New York, I was devastated because that was like my dream job, and I was
mm.
just like so excited to make a difference and all of this stuff. And I mean, I had to experience the loss. I had to experience the what's wrong with me kind of thing. But I think for me, it's not staying there very long. It's
Mm.
acknowledging those feelings and letting them go, and then going, this happened for a reason. Maybe not sure right now why, but this is for my highest good, leading me in the direction of what it is that I want because I get to choose. And so when you're able to do that and get to and let me tell you, I've had a lot of experience. If
Yeah.
you I've had a lot of experience in practicing that, and I love that because the better you get at that, the easier life becomes. It doesn't mean you don't get challenges. You still get the challenges. Like life happens. But your state of being, your state of joy, your state of
Yeah.
energy just maintains. You're able to maintain that at a much higher level, which just makes life just so much more joyful.
Yeah, and let go of the heavier stuff sooner. So, and you've, I mean, I was just thinking that in a way, your life has kind of been resilience school, right? Because I mean, how many people have had um, became a widow with a 5-month-old son, right,
Yeah.
for starters, and then been laid off not just once but twice as a
Yes.
single mum, right? And the other stuff as well. It's like that's resilience school. So
Yeah.
a really important thing there that you've talked about, because there's so much of this toxic positivity, let's just shove everything under the rug. Actually, before I go on, I just want to acknowledge all of the wonderful people who are joining us live. So thank you so much, everyone who's here live, and we've got some lovely comments going on. How does my reality fit with where I want to be? That is such a great question to ask ourselves. So thank you. That was from one of our watchers on Facebook. So I can't see your name there, but brilliant comment. How does my reality fit with where I want to be? Take it and make use of these things. And hey there, shout out to Lynn Schussler Williams as well, who's popped on and looking forward to this conversation. So let's get on with that. What I was going to say with this is that there's lots and lots of toxic positivity, and the toxic positivity says it's not okay to have those human emotions, that we kind of need to suppress them or deny them or whatever it is, which actually only makes them stronger, right? And that's not just a spiritual thing, that's a neuroscience and psychological thing.
Mhm.
So you're saying actually, no, we have those emotions and allowing them to just slide. Now, I mean, I know there's a number of techniques for that, and there's breathing techniques, and there's not being attached to it, and it's acknowledging it and letting it go with compassion. And then there's the more Zen way of just noticing the feelings and imagining their leaves on the stream and letting them go past. There's so many things that we can do, but I'd love to know what do you find for you has been most effective for letting go of those human and important heavy emotions when stuff doesn't go the way we expected?
Sure. Um, I think one of them is a practice that I learned that I work with my clients on
Mm,
right off the bat, which is an awareness. And it was
mm,
something that was taught to me by my coach when I went through my law of attraction. His name is Gil McKiss. So I want to make sure to recognize his work.
mm,
He came up with this practice where you check in with yourselves like 10
mm,
times a day, but you
mm,
say this like, where do you feel it? And you make this statement that says, there it is. That's not me. That's a program.
mm,
And it helped me to learn how to disidentify with the feeling and be able to just acknowledge that it's there. And then you release it and you say, thank you, thank you, thank you. And you end with, I love you, I love you, I love you. And
mm,
the whole process of that is recognizing, acknowledging, not feeding it by trying to make it go away, just acknowledging that it has served you in some way or is serving you in some
mm,
way and being okay with that, and then getting back to gratitude for self or self-love because
mm,
it's you. This is all part of who you are, and your job is to, I want to say, master it from the standpoint of figuring out how to live with them in a way that does not affect how you make choices in your life. Because when
mm,
you give into those feelings, you're typically not making choices that are helping you towards your highest good or towards your creation of your reality. So being able to
mm,
just acknowledge them as purposeful in some way but not attaching. I mean, you said it at the beginning when you asked the question. Like that's that process of acknowledging, letting go, and just loving yourself.
I love the loving yourself piece. And a really important part of this is actually acknowledging that these feelings are part of what we came here for. They're part of the human experience, right? And they are actually there to serve us in some way, even though we may not be able to see that from where we're standing right now. If we can thank them and send them some love, it's much, much easier to let those go. So that is a beautiful process and a really important thing. I will just mention too, for everyone watching, do stick around, because Maytte does have something that's about to kick off, where if you want to actually go deeper with some of these kinds of practices, you'll have that opportunity. So what I wanted to just acknowledge there, though, is you said, what, about 10 times a day?
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
it's really about the idea of starting to get a sense of what's going on with you.
Yeah.
So, in order for us to change anything, we have to become aware. And so, I'm sure you know, Anna, there's so many people out there who are just living in negativity or living on autopilot, and they really don't have a sense of what is really happening within themselves. We're so conditioned in this moment to be
Yeah.
in this fight or flight and this level of stress that for a lot of people, that's like normal. And
Yeah.
so, the idea of checking in with yourself 10 times a day is to get a read on, am I feeling what I want to be feeling, or am I feeling anxious, am I feeling doubt, am I feeling worry, am I feeling fear? And that is just like the first step to having a level of awareness of yourself.
Mhm.
um 10 times a day is so that you're constantly having that feel. I remember trying to put 10 alarms on my phone. It was like, oh my God, it just went off, you know? Um,
Yeah.
but, but the process, what's so cool about it is that it becomes a part of who you are. Like
Yeah.
you start to recognize when you're not feeling the way that you want to be feeling. And that's the first step toward having ownership of
Yeah.
how you're living.
That's huge. And you are reminding me of the wonderful Abraham Hicks. They say constantly it's about that momentum, not letting those heavy emotions get momentum. So part of the 10 times a day is that we're nipping it in the bud before it gets too established. And another aspect of that too, just for everyone listening, this is like if we've got stiff muscles, we don't just stretch them once. If we want to be more flexible, we want to stretch every day repeatedly. And it's the same when we're trying to reprogram our nervous system, because that's what we're actually doing here, right? It's yes, the awareness, but by creating that shift, we're reprogramming our nervous system and actually reprogramming, changing the hierarchy and the chemistry in our brain and our nervous system. And the old stuff's going to push back for a bit, just simply because it's programmed one way, right? So once isn't going to cut it. It takes that repetition to shift not just the energy, but the chemistry that's established, especially if we've been feeling that way for such a long time. And I do want to acknowledge one of our watchers on Facebook has this brilliant observation, which I'd love to talk to. That fear of failure. I mean, everyone watching, how many times have we been stuck and then looked back and gone, oh my goodness, I wish I had, but I didn't because I was afraid that it might not work out the way I expected. And that just comes so much back to your story, Maytte, because I mean, how many aspects of that are, well, I thought this was going to happen, but then, you know, what objectively someone would look at and go, well, that was a failure, that was a failure, that was a failure. And yet you have actually allowed the universe, source, whatever word we want to use, God, if God is your word, allow that power to lay out these little stepping stones for them. And if you'd got stuck in the fear of failure, you'd never would have taken those first steps, right? So um what are your thoughts on fear of failure and how to move beyond that negative energy and into the energy that helps us move down our path?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And there's for me, there's a few different parts to it because again, I'm human. And, when I lost my job or when network marketing didn't work out, I did feel, those feelings of I'm a failure. And again, it's about acknowledging that you have them and then going, well, wait a minute, I'm really not. So I got this job. Like, that was a big deal to get that job. Or, you know what? I had the courage to leave when that didn't work out the way that I wanted to back in my corporate world. And I took a leap of faith and started doing this other thing. And yeah, it didn't work, but you know what? It got me here and it got me here and it got me here. And thankfully, I've had enough life experience to see that. And so, for people who maybe don't have that life experience or are wanting to acknowledge it, kind of for the first time, it's really about taking the bigger picture. And Anna, you and I started talking about this. It's trusting and allowing, because we are connected to source, God, the universe, whatever you call it. We are part of it. We are all energy. We are interconnected. And so understanding that and understanding that our connection is so powerful that we're always being supported no matter what is happening in your world. You are supported. Your universe has got your back. When you know that, like really and truly know that, then you can be in that fear for that moment, but go, no, that's not the way it's supposed to play out here. Like, nope, this is not the end of the story. This is a stepping stone. We are going to continue. And that is a bigger conversation, because that's your part in creating your reality. You get to show up. And even when you have that failure, you still need to show up for yourself, because that's the only way that it gets better.
And actually showing up for ourselves is us saying to the universe, yes, I'm willing to step in the ring with you and actually make this happen. Because we need to, that's how we give the universe permission, right? We've got free will. We have to say, yep, I'm going to let you support me. And if we're not taking that first step, we're not giving that permission. What are your thoughts on that?
You're going to have to ask me that again, because I was reading the comments.
All right. I love it. So many beautiful comments, everybody.
I know.
Use that 10 times to check. Love it. Oh, very good. I'll just put that one up. Beautiful. Thank you. Take it down to smaller pieces. Let's take it down to some smaller pieces. All right. So what I was saying is that there's that kind of saying, the book and the saying, feel the fear and do it anyway. What I was saying is that, from one perspective, we have free will, right? As spiritual beings on this human journey, we have free will. And so that means that actually, if we want the universe to come and sort stuff out for us, we've got to give it permission. We've got to say, hey, come and help me here, right? And when we're trying to figure it all out ourselves, or when we're stuck in fear and not taking action, then we're holding back that permission. So the perspective that I would love you to comment on is taking that first action, even though we feel the fear, taking that first action, even if it is just a really, really tiny one, tiny step, that is saying to the universe, yes, I'm giving you permission to help. What's your perspective on that?
Oh, absolutely. But I think that you have to kind of take a step back, which is we talked about. So for me, there's 3 kind of rules to manifestation. And
let's dive into that, because that was my next question for you.
We talked about number 2, which is just always knowing that we're supported. That whatever it is that we want, the universe is orchestrating, and using the energies that create worlds on your behalf to make stuff happen. But the first thing that you need to do is you need to know what it is that you want.
Yeah.
What is that vision for your future? What is it that you truly desire? That would be step 1, being very clear about that. Step 2 is knowing that it's done. The moment Abraham talks about this all the time. Step 1, being clear about what you want based on your contrast. Number 2 is knowing that it's done. It's done. It's yours. And all we need to do is align with that energy. But what that means is that we have to show up. We've got to figure out, like, we have to make a commitment to ourselves and our dreams that no matter what, we are going to show up. And that is hard when you have the fear and the limiting beliefs are happening. And that's a huge part of what I do from a law of attraction perspective, because we're our worst enemy. And so it is breaking it down to small pieces. And today, what can I do? What can I do toward my goal?
Yeah.
What's one thing that I can do?
One tiny little step. But first, getting the energy aligned. So it's getting absolutely clear on, well, what is it that I want? And something that I notice, you might have some comments on this, but when I'm working with clients and they've been taught that they need to set goals, and so they set a goal that is just like so specific that they're actually getting stuck in, this is how it needs to look, and therefore this is how the path needs to be, and they're really boxing themselves in, and not really allowing for all of the other possibilities that I always know are lined up for them. But they get so specific. And then because they get attached to that specific outcome, that is part of what creates the fear, right? Is that attachment to a very, very specific outcome. Whereas what Abraham Hicks talks about, and there are so many others who share on this, what is actually attracting in the result is not that picture of, this is what color it needs to be, whatever it is.
Perfect action.
The feeling, right? The feeling, and then followed by action that aligns with that feeling. Do you want to speak to that? What would you add to that?
So you're right. I mean, it really is all about energy. The other example that Abraham speak about is that whole the vacuum cleaner. Like, you could be out there vacuuming away, but if you didn't plug in that vacuum, you're going through the motions. So the idea of being connected, and there's so many different ways to be connected. From one of my favorites, having a morning routine. The meditation in particular, but it's about what Abraham says related to feeling good. What are the activities? What are you doing in your life that is helping you to feel good? Is that connecting with your family? Is that walking your dog? Is that being out in nature? Is it listening to the kinds of music that just fills your soul and you have to get up and dance? Is it looking lovingly into your partner and the feeling that gets, and having the awareness to try to build that into your life as much as possible? Morning routine is something that I'm very passionate about, because for me, that definitely made a huge difference. So lining up your energy so that when you line up your energy, that's when you're most connected to God's source, the universe. And that's when you're allowing for inspiration and people and circumstances and all of the things that the universe aligns for you. But if you're sitting on the couch and you're like down on yourself and you cannot get out of your own way, which, there are things that you can do if you're in that spot. But taking action to get you started is one way. And then if you're not in that place, being aligned is what will help you to know what your next step is. Because to your point, Anna, you can have goals and you can write the things that you think are the best way, but you cannot be attached to it, because you know what, tomorrow something might happen that takes you totally off course, and you make a choice to go down that road because it's going to make you feel good, but you should be doing something over here. And if you're in that energy of not even allowing for the beauty of what you made the choice because you're stuck over here because of something you should be doing, it's not going to work. But if you make the choice,
We'll get more of that other stuff that we should be doing and not the things that we want. Right?
In that choice, in that circumstance, you could say, you know what, in this moment, what serves me most is to go do that one thing because you're aligned and you're inspired to do it. And you have no idea what the universe might have in store for you by having made that choice that's going to take you way further than the energy of having to and should be doing this. So
Yeah.
it's all about how you look at it, and it's all about the energy that you bring to it.
It is. And we've been having such a great conversation, but what I'd really love to do, if we can, is sort of bring it down to like, and you've talked about your 3-step formula, but if we could break it down even a little bit more into, from what you know from your own life and from working with clients, like the specifics of how that manifestation process works in practice, where we want to be putting our focus, what are the things that we want to be. And I don't like using the word doing because a lot of it here is actually not doing. Right?
Right.
Yeah, so if you could, if there are like some key steps or a little checklist of what are the things that lead us to intentional manifestation in practice, what would you put on that list?
Okay, so for me, meditation,
Hmm.
and again, that can look a little different to people. You don't have to sit in meditation. You could have guided meditation. You could take a walk in nature. Like it could be a lot of different ways. But that stillness, so that you can start really having awareness, um, checking in with yourself, having a vision for what it is that you're pursuing, paying attention to the inner dialogue that happens in our head, and having a plan for how you want to address that. And we talked about this, the 3-step process, but it could be, there's a lot of different ways that we can address that. Um, and then it really is consistently taking action towards your goals, whatever that looks like for you, and that looks different to everybody. And last but not least, being able to let go and allow, um, because as long as your intention is there, and that doesn't mean that you don't have bad days. It doesn't mean that at all. Like when you're having a bad day, don't do anything other than something that makes you feel good. So
Yeah, so good.
so
Why do we make it so hard for ourselves to prioritize feeling good when actually feeling good is the magic that brings us the life that we want? Following what feel, and it doesn't mean that we're not doing any work, or we're sitting on the couch the whole time. We're following what feels inspiring and good and exciting, right? Why do we make that so hard for ourselves, do you think?
well, I think that it just has to do with the programming that we got when we were growing up, because we didn't have the ability to go, you know what, that doesn't make sense, or that doesn't work. But now we do.
Yeah.
Now we do.
Drop the
Now we
shoulds is
do.
what I'm hearing. Stop shooting all over yourself and follow what feels good to you. I just
Yes,
want to, we'll
yes.
wrap up in a moment, and I would love to hear a little bit more about your morning practice too, because how we set up the day is just so
Mhm.
critical. So, and I love it. We've got the comment here and as well. Has some fantastic comments today. Mindfulness of the many ways to accomplish your goal. And that is just so powerful when we're mindful that there are many ways to get there, and we can just trust the process and let go of that attachment to even particular steps or outcome. Because when we're attached, we're actually vibrating the lack of what we want.
Right,
And that's what
right.
we tend to keep recreating. Whereas if we can be, such beautiful wording, mindful of the many ways to accomplish our goals, and excited to see, well, which one's going to unfold next. That can be quite a fun ride, right? It's the roller coaster.
Maybe.
Um, can you
Maybe.
expand a little bit on how you start your day so that you're, spending as much of your time in that aligned state as you can?
Sure. Well, it literally starts when I open my eyes, because
Mm,
before I even get out of bed, I am just grateful for another day. I'm grateful for the good night's sleep. I'm grateful for my comfy bed. I'm grateful for everything that's going to unfold in my day. And that's kind of how I start my day. And then I do some kind of exercise. And I'm going to tell you what my ideal day looks like, but that's not necessarily how it happens every day. And then I'll share with you how I manage that. So I exercise and then I sit in meditation. Sometimes it's guided, sometimes it is just me focusing on my breath. I am very consciously doing this kind of new, an actual 4-minute visualization where I am picking something that I want to visualize as already done. I'm feeling the excitement. I'm like physical about it, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. This is so exciting. Whatever that might be. I have a card deck that I usually pick a card, and that's my message for me. I do that on my lives, so I pick one for my community, but I do one for myself. And then I write gratitude. Like I literally will write 10 things that I'm grateful. Yeah. So that is what I try to do every day in some fashion. Some days it doesn't happen. I mean, always the gratitude at the beginning of my morning happens because I'm not even out of bed. And that really does make a difference for me. But sometimes stuff happens and I can't, exercise or I can't do the meditation. But I'm constantly working on having that happen. And I show myself grace on the days that it doesn't.
I show myself grace. That is just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And at the heart of so much of what you're sharing is actually living in a state of self-compassion, having compassion for ourselves, having compassion for our emotions and that inner critic, and self-love, showing ourselves some grace. And from that then comes giving ourselves the permission to actually enjoy life. So, do you want to add anything to that self-love piece? And I just want to say on behalf of everybody, thank you so much for sharing that morning practice, because I mean there's some such good elements. I want to come back to that visualization too, that was so good. But self-love and self-compassion, that's a very, very strong theme with you, right?
It is, and I don't even know what to say about it because it's just become such a part of who I am. The compassion towards self took a little bit. I was practicing much more compassion toward others because one of the things, having read the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success back in my 20s, I remember so clearly there's a section in there about non-judgment or non-judgment of others. And so for me, that was so powerful for some reason. And I've always just adapted this idea of, you know what, I don't know what path other people have walked. So how can I sit in judgment of any decision that they're making? Like I can't. And then it became, well, wait a minute. If I'm going to be like that with other people, then I need to be that way with myself because I really and truly, could I be doing better? Could I do more? Like always, we're always going to feel that way. But I'm doing the best job I know how to do. Every single moment, I am doing the best job. Sometimes I feel like it's better than other days, but it was the best I could do that day.
Yeah, and so in that context, right?
In that context.
Yeah, so and it's interesting. So I was just thinking, that letting go of judgment of others, and when we let go of judgment of others, if we do that, fully, if we embody that, then we have to stop letting go of judgment of ourselves. The two can't live together. And I was just thinking, oh my goodness, what would the world be like if we could all practice that?
Right?
Oh, I want my kids living in that world.
Oh, but you know what? You know what is so exciting about that is we're having this conversation, and hopefully everybody who hears this walks away with that. Because when we practice that, the energy that we embody goes out. And so imagine how many lives we get to touch by making that choice.
Yeah.
So powerful.
Absolutely. It's not just about feeding humanity, it's about feeding the field. You probably heard that notion. The earth is surrounded by a field of energy, and what we put out, we are feeding into the field. What do we want to feed the field? And it's that emotional side of things. Um, another beautiful comment there as well in reference to self-judgment. Yeah. Um,
I love
letting
the
go
amount
of
of
that
interaction
judgment
we're
opens us
having.
up, right? Mm?
I said, I love the amount of interaction we're having. That's awesome.
I know we've got so many wonderful people watching and some fantastic comments.
Yeah.
And I will just say we're going to wrap up in a short while. But if anyone else has any questions or other comments that they have that they'd like us, like Maytte, to speak to while we're here, I just want to first come back to that visualization that you've started doing, because that is just so cool. And honestly, there's so many things that we do, and Maytte is about to open up a deeper dive into all this as well. I work with clients on this too, and it's amazing how effective this. It's just so powerful. But the visualization stuff that you've talked about, I first learned about that. This not just woo-woo spirituality stuff. That is hardcore high performance success. And any
Yeah.
single person that we look at and we go, wow, they're doing so well, they're so successful. How did they do that? Whether they look like a spiritual, like what we'd usually think of as a spiritual person or not, I guarantee you they have a practice along those lines, because it's wiring everything, right? Absolutely everything in our nervous system, in our brain, in the way we interact with people, and so on, towards um, being that version of ourselves. So
Wow.
everyone watching, that was gold. Gold just in that one little piece of Maytte's morning practice. So thank you so much for sharing that. Lynchesla Williams, great comment there as well, making contribution to the collective field. Yes, a privilege and an honor. And I have to say, I mean, as a spiritual being having this experience, we all chose to incarnate now,
Mm-hmm.
right? That is interesting. We chose to incarnate now for a reason. Isn't it so that we could actually help lift the field at this time? Maybe, just a thought. I'll put that out there. Maytte, is it all right if I just do it? You like that thought? I thought you might.
Well, and the reason I like that thought is because it validates this perspective that I have, that in the craziness that we have going on, my responsibility to myself and
Yeah.
the best that I can do in terms of that collective is to have my energy right, to be showing love, compassion, all the things that we talked about, because we're all connected. And it
Mm.
is part of how you affect the bigger collective.
Yeah,
So,
and
I
and
love
that's actually something I wanted to come back to, because just before this call, everyone, Maytte and I were talking about, what are some of the really practical things that we can do. So we've talked about your morning routine, but what are the very practical tips would you share with people to actually help us? And you've shared as well that 10 times a day, checking and being aware of our feelings and letting it go, that process. You've shared your morning routine. What other practical tips do you have with people when it comes to staying in alignment, being in a vibration that matches what I want as opposed to matching what I don't want? Because either way, we're going to attract what we're vibrating in alignment with. So being in that vibration of the exciting, of the freedom, of the abundance, of the well-being. Um, Practical tips to help us put that into practice when we're living our day-to-day lives.
Okay, well, it's funny because when you started the question, I was like, what am I going to say? And as the question unfolded, so did my answer.
Hmm.
What I do, um, that is probably the most powerful thing, I think, is gratitude.
Yeah.
It's literally having gratitude throughout my day in terms of everything that happens in my world, and actively choosing to really try to find the gratitude even in those difficult times. Somebody was talking to me and they said something and they said, yeah, but it could have been worse. And even that, like in any situation, it could be worse. So, like, be content and happy in terms of what's happening and be grateful for like your life. Like, you came into this time space reality in this moment to have this magnificent life. So, start feeling it, because when you feel
Yeah.
it right now in this now moment, that amplifies. And how can you not continue to feel more? Because the universe is going to give you more. So to me, that's probably, I mean, there's just so much we could talk about, but for me, that's probably the most powerful thing
Yeah.
that I actively, consciously have incorporated into my day. Like, I was just telling
Yeah.
one of my clients that I have this thank you loop that goes on, you know. Uh, Dr. Joe Vitale has the Ho'oponopono loop in his
Yeah.
head. For me, it's just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
But see, that is absolutely magical, because when we're doing that, we're saying more please, more please, more please. And do you notice that happening? That the more you say thank you, the more you appreciate and acknowledge, then the more the things, it's an Abraham Hicks thing, right? What you appreciate appreciates. Hmm.
And
Do you get that?
it was just recent though that I heard what you just said about gratitude being a feeling of receivership, like, as, yes. And I was like, oh, I did not even realize that level of it.
Yeah, there you go. We've got some really juicy stuff. So let me see if I can. There's a lot here to sum up. There's a lot here to sum up. But key things. So the steps to start with are actually being really clear about what we want and what we don't want. And I'm going to dip back into that, finding something to be grateful for, even when it looks like a really rubbish time. How can I possibly find something to be grateful for in this situation? Even then, actually, in a way, we can show it even more gratitude, because we are so clear on what we don't want that we're getting so much more clarity about what we do want, right? Isn't that a powerful thing? Yeah.
It is very
So
powerful.
being really clear about what we want and about that desire and feeling into it. And then if I can bring back in that gratitude thing, if we can feel grateful for it, and I love using your visualization, even bringing in a visualization of living it as if it's happening. It's done and it's happening. And I'm getting to experience it right now, and really feeling into that feeling and being grateful for that experience in the moment. That's just going to accelerate everything, right? You're nodding. Fantastic.
Oh,
I'll also ask everyone watching, we've got gratitude for where it leads us to. I love that. I love that. Brilliant comment. So, whatever happens, being grateful, this is a step on my path, right? And I know that I'm loved by the universe. And so, therefore, everything's working out for me. So, it'll be interesting to see what's next. I can be grateful for where it leads us. That's so good. Remembering that, and this is really huge. You said at the start a couple of things about being really, really conscious that we're all energy, and that the energy I'm emoting is what I'm going to attract. So being really careful about that. You gave us a process of checking in 10 times a day and just noticing, what am I feeling? Where am I feeling it? That's not me. Letting it go with love and compassion, so that we can actually move on and reset that emotional state. It all starts with me. I created this, no matter how rubbish it looks. If we can own that, you said that, and that's powerful. That is powerful. And from that place, then I get to choose a perspective that serves me. That's a really powerful thing. Um, Having that morning routine where it's focused on feeling good. Start the day with gratitude. The thank you loop running through your head all the day. Thank you, 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 thank you. Before we take action, make sure we've plugged in the vacuum cleaner. So we're clear about the desire, but we get into alignment. And that is a state of feeling not even necessarily over the moon excited, but just feeling good. Feeling good. Getting into that alignment, plugging in your vacuum cleaner before you try using it, and then actually following what feels good, not the shoulds, not the this is the responsible thing, but actually tuning in and going, if it feels good, if it feels inspiring, if it feels exciting, that is on my path, and I'll just be open to whatever comes. That being unattached to a particular outcome. Trusting the feeling was the last thing we wrote down. There are a couple of little gems too, which are fantastic reminders, just as a general thing, which is that actually the starting point for all of this, and you embody this so beautifully, is self-love, self-compassion, letting go of judgment of ourselves as well as others. Because when we're in that place of not judging ourselves, of being compassionate and of self-love, that's when we're in the place where we can actually receive that love through whichever way it comes, right? So those are the things, as a quick recap, that I've taken out of our conversation. And I'd love it if those of you watching, if anyone wants to add any other comments. We have had so many beautiful comments. Thank you so much, everybody. And for those of you watching the replay, I know that you have fabulous perspectives as well. So please feel very welcome. Here's another beautiful gem from Lynn Schussler-Williams. Thank you so much. The greatest shifter of all. That's the name for gratitude. I love that. Our automatic pilot that we have programmed, if we can program it with choice, with gratitude and non-attachment, so that it serves us in the hard times, that is so powerful. And that little checking in 10 times a day will do just that, right? What's your view on that, Maytte?
Well, it is. It's part of reprogramming, because every time something comes up that is not what we want, that's based on a memory and it's based on a program. And so when you can shift away from that, as you said, it's reprogramming your what did you call it? I forgot.
I called it your nervous system. Your brain and your nervous system. Because we've got the energy, right? And then we've got the chemistry and the wiring. Yeah.
Yes. And I just love the fact that everything that we're talking about used to be thought about from a very spiritual and woo-woo perspective, and yet the science has caught up. And I love it. Now, for people who, maybe weren't quite sure about this, now we've got people who are actually studying this and can see what the science behind it is. So we are reprogramming our nervous system. We're programming the chemicals in our brain, and we're actually reprogramming our brain. Our subconscious brain is being reprogrammed by all of those things, by you making a different choice, by you having gratitude and not being attached. So that was a great comment, Lynn.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is every single moment we get to choose whether we're programming our energy and our chemistry and our wiring for what we want or what we don't want. And it really does boil down so simply to that. So do you have something that we want to share with everyone just before we wrap up? I do just want to check, Maytte, is there anything else coming out of our conversation that you'd like to highlight?
I mean, I think that I'm just going to validate and reiterate what you just said, because I think that at the end of the day, it is really simple. We get to choose. We get to choose how we think, how we believe, our feelings. Like, we get to choose. So we're either doing it by default or we're doing it intentionally, because we get to choose. We're sovereign beings. And this idea that we get to choose is really empowering. The difficulty or the challenge is that it's a practice that has to happen on a regular basis, because we were already programmed when we were little. Like, when we made the choice to come here, we picked our families, we picked the dynamics. We kind of already picked some of the stuff that we were going to deal with. And so the journey is about knowing that we have the choice and making the choice that moves us in the direction that we want to go. So for me, that power is everything. Like, that's why I do what I do, because I want more people to know that and really start living their life the way they want to.
And it is.
Well, I was going to say, and the thing that's kind of funny to me is that it doesn't boil down to what you have; it boils down to how you feel. Like, life can always get better. Your house can be bigger, your job could be bigger, all of that can happen, and it will, but your ability to feel good like that, everything we want for those feelings of contentment or love or happiness. And guess what? We get to experience that right now. And that's why that creative visualization is so like powerful because you're actually making a choice to feel what you would feel when you have $1 million in your bank account. I don't know, whatever that is.
Whatever it is, right? Whatever it is. I mean, Olympians use it to get the gold medal. You can use it to bring in more money or have that great holiday. And the thing is, money's actually, I'd love to have another call about money because that's a whole nother thing. Because we don't want the money for the money. We want the money for the experiences that we can have from the money. We don't want the stuff for its own sake. We want the stuff so we can feel a certain way. And one of the things that would just be lovely to wrap up on and get into the practicalities, because when we feel the feeling that we want, say we want that house or that car or that job or whatever it is, as soon as we feel the feeling that we want it for, I want it so that I feel free or so that I feel abundant or so that I can go anywhere, whatever that feeling is. When we're really dialed into that, because we've been doing that, and the visualization is training our brain too, we've got to do it consistently. I've been doing that for a few months and I'm so dialed into that feeling that actually I don't really care about the house. That's when it's going to show up, right? Because we're no longer in the feeling of lack around it. So, and again, hey, and everyone, let us know below if you'd love us to do a call specifically on the money topic, because there's so many of us carry a lot of stuff around that.
Yes, we do.
Right. So there's one thing to know all this stuff, and it's so much fun to talk about it all, but it's a whole nother thing to put it into practice and actually integrate it into habits in our lives, right? And into our practice. And that's why this is just such divine timing. You have something coming up to help people do just that, right?
I have a couple of things, but mainly I am doing a workshop on Saturday, this coming Saturday, and it's going to be about everything that we've been talking about, like really understanding the power of your mind, understanding those limiting beliefs or the programming, however you want to call it, that gets stuck in here, so we can learn how to let go of it, some of the stuff we talked about. And then the last part is just going a little deeper into, again, some of the stuff that we talked about already, creative visualization. What are the tools that we need, that we have at our disposal, that helps our energy to get refocused toward what you want versus in the spiral of negativity or whatever that might be, that lots of people go through. So that's happening on Saturday. And, the other thing that I would just say is, register for that. I would love to see you. We already have an amazing group of women who are stepping up and saying, I want more. Like, I want things to be different in 2023. And so super excited about that.
Yeah, fantastic. I've just dropped just below. Just if you want more information about that, head to owningyoursuperpower.com. And you've just got a few places left, as I understand. So yeah. So might want to get in now. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. And I want to say thank you to everybody who has stuck with us for the full hour. This has been an awesome conversation. We hold these conversations, these Manifestation Monday conversations every week with different people, different perspectives. We dive right into the spirituality, and sometimes we're much more practically focused, but everything comes down to these principles of manifestation. So if you would like to just be on the invite list so that you never miss one, let me know. Just drop that word invite below. And to join Maytte and that beautiful group of people, of lovely women who've already stepped up, drop the word, go to the link that's up there, owningyoursuperpower.com for more information, and you can be a part of that on Saturday. That's going to be so much fun.
If you like this conversation, it's going to be a few more hours of this.
Yeah. So, principles of manifestation. We follow what feels fun, inspiring, and exciting. If you feel inspired, excited, or that this could be fun, there you go. That might be a communication happening. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lynn, for that lovely comment as well. We've got Lynn saying fantastic treat. And thank you so much to everybody who's joined us. Love to have you on another call in the future. And
thank you for all the just
Oh,
love
my say.
comments it's just such a pleasure. From the moment I met you, we were connected, and I am just so grateful and so honored to be here and to get to have this conversation with you because I know you get it, and both of our passion is about helping more and more people understand this so that they're living a life that they love. And that's just, I love it.
100%. Imagine what the world will be like, right? When actually people are living into who they are from a place of non-judgment, self-love, compassion and love for self and for others without judgment. That's, who's up for creating that one? I'll be right there with you. Thanks so much, everybody. We will be back
and
next
we're doing
week.
our part toward that. We are doing our part toward that.
Yeah, absolutely are. And this is actually where the self-love and kindness comes in, is recognizing that we're doing our best every moment, right? Every single moment. So I'll just say to everyone as well, if you like this and you know anyone who you feel could maybe benefit from a bit of a vibe boost, feel free to sprinkle the love around the internet and let me know if you'd like an invite to next week's Manifestation Monday. We're diving a little bit more from a slightly different perspective into the mechanics of manifestation. So that's going to be a lot of fun as well. Maytte, I know it's going to be awesome on Saturday, so enjoy that. And everybody, we will see you again soon. Sending love to you all.